Alright, let's do this. G'day guys, welcome once again to the tripod. We've had massive technical difficulties once again. It's just the strangest shit. That's why you'll see Jacob is a tiny little cretin in the corner there. We couldn't manage to figure out the split screen. We'll try and do what we can and make it work with what we've got anyway. So this will be the round 5 preview. Pretty shitty week last week, unfortunately, but looking to bounce back this week in a big way. Jacob, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. Yeah, we're coming.
You're tiny.
I can't see the visuals or the comments. Is probably a good thing, but this is actually life size. This is actually how much bigger Alex's head is if you ever do meet us in real life. We are coming to you off the worst round that we've had in 5 seasons. It was, boiled, and you did the recap, but boiled down to a couple of terrible performances we hitched our bandwagon to in the Titans and the Broncos, and then capped off by being on the wrong side of pretty much a 50-50 game in the Knights. But, we've shown with our results that over 4 seasons going over 60% or better, we've been able to achieve that, but you can't go 60% or better every single week. I think it was round 1, we went over 80%, and then last week we're below 30%. So within a season, things are going to fluctuate. One thing that is really important is actually being able to accept losing. So you don't have to like it, and we don't like it. We really does bother us when we lose, but the people who will not be profitable punters are those who just cannot accept losing, because if you can't accept having a losing day or a losing round, you're going to try and chase that next win, and you're going to force plays where the value isn't there, and that's where you really get on a slippery slope. So you've got to be able to accept that you can't win every game, every bet, every round, but believe in the process if if you've proven that you can win long term, which we can.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, I guess you see some people out there that are like, we win 70% or 80% of our bets. It's just not possible. If you, like we've kind of said in the past, if you can win 55, 60% of your plays at around $1.90, you're going to be in profit. But obviously, when we're giving out as many bets as we are, we've given out about 3,000 bets so far. You are going to have, ups and downs, that's for sure. And you will have bad days, you'll have bad weeks. You may even have a bad month where you're going to be down a fair bit. But look, as long as you stick to your staking plan, long term, you will still be up. And you're right, people that are like, oh, fuck, can't have a losing week, and are just absolutely shattered after a losing week. Generally, it's because they haven't staked accordingly. And they've bet probably more than they can afford in that week, and that's why they're so pissed off.
And we share that as a cautionary tale because we have got such a good track record. If we lose a game or 2 games in a row, which doesn't happen very often, people might think, oh, they're definitely not going to lose the next game. I'm loading up on their next tips, and we're kind of warning you guys. Like, every time we share something as a best bet, we believe it's good value, but there are no guarantees. And look at last round, as unenjoyable as it was from a punting point of view, and there weren't too many points, and we can talk a little bit about that trend in 2019. But some bloody close, exciting games. 3 in Golden Point, a 4th that was a conversion away from Golden Point. So that's just the nature of some of these games, that they hang on, one moment. So for that reason, it is impossible to win them all. You can't, but we give it a shot every single game.
Yeah, a lot of close games and a lot of low-scoring games as well. And I guess, one of the comments that have been flowing through to me as well is like, you can make as good a plays as you want, but at the end of the day, it is sports betting, and the people on the pitch and on the field have got to perform as well. So it's like, you can do all the research you want, but at the end of the day, if these dickheads are completing 60% of their sets, then you're not going to win.
Not mentioning any names, Gold Coast Titans.
Fucking useless gimps. Anyway, moving on, let's start with the Thursday game. We've got the Broncos laying 6.5 points, hosting the Tigers. 38.5 is the total. This one we don't have a play on yet, as you can see. You'll see if we have plays on there because we'll have a little blue arrow next to it. But nothing on this game so far. But if I were to play the game, I would play the Broncos. I would want a flat 6. Here we have a team that was heralded as being a top 2, at least top 4 favourite for the premiership at the start of the season. Pretty much had no injuries so far. I know Tavita Pangai Jr. is suspended for this one. But other than that, they're full strength. They've had an absolutely horrid start to the year. They're 1-4. We kind of said it would take a little while for Seabolt to work his magic there and things to kind of click. And I think, it definitely hasn't happened yet. But no one could be lower on the Broncos right now. Absolutely getting drubbed on Thursday night. You've got the longest turnaround of any other teams. And generally speaking, when a good team or what we think is a good team, gets absolutely smoked on national television in a primetime standalone game, they should show up the next week. Suncorp, pretty strong home field advantage. I give them about 3.5 to 4 points. So if I were going to take a side here, it would be the Broncos, but I understand that the Tigers are a solid outfit.
Yeah, and I actually feel with the line being more prevalent, 6.5 in locations, I would be leaning to taking the points. I'm worried that the Tigers are the tougher team, and I know what I'm getting with the Tigers, whereas the Broncos, you said there was a lot of expectations. I'll correct you. I think you said 1-4, but they're 1 from 4. Depending on how you frame the season, remember round 1, they were down, 12-16-0 to the Storm. They nearly could have let go of the rope there and got blown out in that one. Round 2, they beat the Cows, but that's not looking as good, as impressive now. Round 3, they lose to a Dragon side, and round 4 get destroyed by the Roosters. So really, no really performances to hang their hat on yet. But I think this will be their best performance of the season. Also talking about being close to full strength, Jimmy the Jet named back in the reserves, still troubled by the Achilles injury, and may, rejoin the team, but at the moment not even in the 17. So that's a slight loss, although Stags played pretty well there. But I do think that they're under a lot of pressure. And I think the fact that he's picked Darius Boyd, he's picked Nico, picked Milf, all in the same positions again, they are running out of opportunities. So they do want to put in a big effort. We can, probably have a whole nother podcast on what they should be doing there. But based on who's on the park, this will be, a real opportunity, being a home favourite of more than a try, definitely to win and maybe to put on some points at Suncorp Stadium in front of a big crowd. The Tigers have dropped Elijah Taylor. They honestly had that game won so many times against the Panthers last week. So how they rebound from that, I think it was a good performance, just missing that execution. We saw 3 missed goals, we saw missed field goals, and we saw so much drop ball. And drop ball was a real theme of last round.
Bloody earth.
But when they do execute, this side is actually really tough and really, really hard to beat. Josh Reynolds keeps his spot. He actually was pretty good late on the assist for both tries they scored last week. So I would have probably booked this line around 6. So I think the bookies are pretty close, and we kind of can make a case for both sides. So we don't have a best bet yet.
Don't have a best bet yet. And I'll tell you what they should do, which, they should have done probably 2 years ago, is Boyd should bloody retire. And that would make things a lot easier for that Broncos team. Next up, we got the Titans +4 hosting the Panthers. 38.5 is the total. This is your last chance, Titans. I'm giving you one last fucking chance, all right? We've backed you 4 times this year. You've let us down 3 out of the 4. But you have the talent there. You've got the halves back. They've played 1 extra game now. They've got another game under their feet. You are at home. You are 0-4. It's an absolute desperation spot. I know we said this last week and they laid an egg, but I watched that game and just the completions were horrible and the mistakes early on were horrible. What I like to think to myself is that mistakes and errors are largely, I would say, 80% luck. I think, a team's just not way worse at dropping the ball than other teams. Yeah, sure, some are better at ball control like the Tigers and that sort of thing, but generally mistakes are luck. So I don't think they're going to have a completion rate as bad as last week, which was in the 60s, which is not good enough at an NRL level. So many mistakes. I think that'll improve this week. Panthers with a little bit of a reshuffle as well. And I know that the Panthers are a good team, but are they really 6.5 points better than the Titans, who are in a desperation spot at home? They had aspirations to be top 8 this year. They're 0-4. If they want to be top 8, they absolutely have to win this game. I think we're getting kitchen sink effort, and I think that 4 points is too much. And like you see on the board there, we've already grabbed a 4.5.
Yeah, people do talk a lot about completion rate. I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that. We saw the Bulldogs were, 85% or something in round 1, lost by 40 to the Warriors. I mean, you've still got to have effective ends to your sets, but there's different types of errors too, and you talk about the randomness of errors. I mean, I can just think that comes to mind in that Warriors game, which they were down 20-0 before they started actually playing some decent footy. I mean, they had a dropped bomb by all 3 of their back 3, each winger and fullback, and these were uncontested drops. I mean, early tackle count errors kill your team even worse. That's the worst type of an incompletion. And against this Warriors side, they invited trouble in, and then they were just always too far behind chasing points. But they were sloppy in attack, and I hope that they will improve second game in with the actual, planned starting halves. And what my concern with this game, although I believe that we do have to take the Titans, and look, we're copping a lot of shit, and you mentioned that we have, we're copping shit on Friday for taking the Titans against the Warriors. I'm thinking people have a short memory. It's only 5 days ago we took the Titans +12.5 against the Bunnies, and a bunch of other plays that all won. We won 4 out of 5 plays against the Bunnies 5 days ago. It's not like we've bet them just to win 4 weeks in a row. So as you mentioned, against the spread, they still were valued that week. And, we didn't regret being on them last week either. But you do wonder about the confidence of this team. And my concern is that the Panthers are actually similar to the Titans in they are far from they're playing their best footy and far from a finished product. And once again, last week, I already talked about the Tigers. The Panthers did not deserve to win that game. The amount of errors, but they did defend well, and you imagine that they're going to get a lot of confidence out of that win. And they've also now got probably their strongest 17. I actually like the move of Watene Zelezniak to fullback. Take a little pressure off Edwards, who, by the way, was the first Panthers outside back to score a try in 2019. He did it just in time in the 80th minute, and we know how that game ended. They needed every single point in that one. So I think both teams will be improved. It's a big game for both sides, but it's just enough points for us to put our faith in the Titans one more time. I mean, Mal said they'll win the comp, so the least they can do is be within 4 points in this one on Friday night.
Get one more fucking chance, Titans. We're taking 2 best bets for now. We're taking the Titans plus 4.5 points. That one is $1.80, both on Ladbrokes and Neds. And we'll take the Titans to score over 6.5 points in the first half. That one is $1.90 on Bet365. Moving on to the Cowboys hosting the Storm. The Cowboys are plus 8 points, and the total is 38.5. Another one where I'm going to say, this is your last fucking chance, Cowboys. All right, you have a decent roster. You've played absolutely horrible. It's another one of those ones where it's like the public couldn't be any lower on the Cowboys. But now you're 1-3. Things are starting to get a little bit desperate. You're playing the top of the table Storm, who have looked unbeatable until, I guess, first half last week. But they scraped the win over the Bulldogs, which I think helps this line. I think if the Storm had demolished the Bulldogs like everyone thought they would, we'd probably be seeing a line closer to 6.5 rather than 8.5. But this is just one of those ones where I do think the line's too far. I know that the Cowboys have a pretty strong home field advantage. They have to come out there in force and support the boys. We're getting 8.5 points here, where with maybe a 2.5 to 3 point home field advantage. Do I think the Storm are 11 points better than the Cowboys? Probably not. And I think we're just getting a little bit of line value here. I understand that the Storm are the best team in the comp. They're the form team. They are better than the Cowboys, no doubt. But if the Cowboys want to have any chance of making the 8 this season, they have to put up a good performance here at home against the ladder leaders. I think they can keep it close in this one, if not pull an upset. But I certainly think they can at least keep it close here.
Yeah, once again, I'm probably glad I can't see the comments. Some of these bets that we're taking are definitely going to be unpopular, and they're teams that have shown very little in 2019, and people, are definitely going to question them and definitely let us know about it if it doesn't come off for sure. But we will give the Cowboys one more chance here. I mean, Vunivalu out. He's a quality winger. They bring back Adokar back into this side, but it's not about trying to pick who the better team is. That is a lot of points to give the Cowboys at home. And look, a new combination on the left side, bringing in Tuala and Benny Hampton, who used to play for the Storm, in there on the wing. It's interesting. I don't know how good that combination is going to be, but that left center wing combo was actually the part of the field where the Bulldogs exploited against the Storm for a couple of tries on Sunday Arvo. And the thing about that game was I didn't feel the Storm were bad, but I thought they were complacent, and I thought that they did kind of turn up expecting to win. I mean, the largest point spread of the season, 16, 18 point favourites going into that game. So it's hard to really get amped up against an opponent like that. And the Doggies, to an extent, pulled their pants down. It was 12-0, I think, at one stage in that game. But once the Storm kind of got back in the grind, it was only a try off a bomb that pulled the Dogs a bit closer. I think the Storm, we saw they still were able to get it done. I mean, winning try by Cam Munster. And, a guy like that who I still put right up there with, throw any names you want at me, but, a guy like Teddy, RTS, as the best player in the comp. That's how highly I think of Cam Munster. And some people might say it was bad defence that he gets in there for the winning try, considering a low-scoring game and how well the Dogs have played. But he just has so many, things in his bag of tricks that he can flick a short pass, he can throw a long ball, he can drop it on the boot, he can run over someone, he can run around someone. And the threat that he causes just has the defence really shitting themselves every time he has the ball. And in the end, he dances in for, a crucial try. And it's not the first time he's done that. So I was a bit more tentative about betting against the Storm because I don't want to take them the week after Bellamy would have laid into them. But ultimately, it's just the number of points. We're betting numbers, not teams. And there's probably just enough there for the Cowboys. And once again, we are going to give them one last chance. And a guy like Michael Morgan is going to need to try and match some of the flair that Munster's going to bring onto the field. And the forward pack just has to get competitive here. And especially taking the Cowboys in the first half, we feel we have a little bit more of an advantage where the Storm are a grinded out type of team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, I see a comment flowing through to drop David Bowen. Well, don't worry, Christian, your prayers have been answered. He has been dropped for this game. 2 best bets on this one. We're taking the Cowboys plus 8.5 points. That one is $1.90 on BetEasy. And we're also taking, like Jacob said, the first half handicap plus 4.5. That one is $1.85, and that's also on BetEasy. Next up, our favourite game of the round. It is the Rabbitohs -8 against the Warriors. The total is 40.5. Now you notice, I guess, it kind of looks like the Rabbitohs are hosting the Warriors. It's not. It's at the sunny coast. We're going to be there. We're going to be cheering on the boys. The good old Kiwi Warriors. They are going to get the job done here. It is too many points. Let's be real here. The Rabbits are better than the Warriors, sure. But no Greg Inglis. And are they really 8 points better than the Warriors? This is a neutral ground, complete neutral venue. I don't give the edge, venue-wise to either team here. But the Warriors aren't bad. Blake Green, I think, has stepped up in the absence of Sean Johnson. We saw last week Harris Tavita, I think, is a slight upgrade from Kieran. That forward pack is decent. I think they can hang with South. And really, you break it down, it's like you look at the outside backs and you've got RTS there as well. You know, I'll give maybe a slight edge to the Warriors outside backs. I'll give a slight edge to the Rabbits forward pack. And certainly I'd give a slight edge to the Rabbits halves. But is it 8.5 points? I don't think so. I think the Warriors absolutely show up here on the back of a confidence-boosting win over the Titans at home. They're pretty well rested. They've been in Auckland for 3 out of the first 4 weeks. Haven't had to do much travelling. They're going to be stoked to take on the Rabbitohs here, who aren't full strength, nursing a few injuries, and obviously Inglis out as well. This is one of my favourite games of the round. We said this earlier on today when we were looking for best bets. Almost couldn't believe that this line was sitting at 8.5 points. Seems like way too many for us.
Yeah, I'm as confident as you can be betting on the Warriors because, if they lay a stinker on the field as they did in round 2 and again in round 3, then you're going to lose pretty much every bet that we're putting up. But you have to believe that they will come in and win after, backing up a round 1 performance with 2 stinkers, now a good performance in round 4. There's no reason not to show up here. And you talk about the Warriors outside backs. I feel like they really can get a big advantage there, exploiting the fact that there are injuries with the Bunnies. You spoke about Inglis, and that's on the back of Braden Burns being, getting his injury as well. Kyle Turner's named in the centres in this game, so they are very depleted, especially in the 3-quarter line there, the Rabbitohs. And Lasone is a big, boost coming back from suspension for the Warriors. I really feel they've got a mean bench as well. Jazz Tavanga, who was Interchange Player of the Year last year, very strong, deep side. This side is fit. I will give a little advantage. You said no advantage to the Warriors, to the Rabbitohs being a neutral venue. But hey, if one side has to come from Sydney, the other from Auckland,
sure.
Even if we give the Bunnies a point just for shorter travel time, I'm with you. I don't think that the gulf is that big between these teams. Now look, Rabbitohs should have beat Manly. Rabbitohs should be undefeated. I don't know how they didn't win that game once Tommy Turbo was out and half their team was bloody the walking wounded and the Bunnies had the lead and somehow just could not get across the try line in the second half.
Manly defence was
quite
outstanding.
Remarkable. And we will talk about Manly and in the next couple of games or for their matchup against in the Knights as well. But they were awesome. But Reynolds had a shocker, and I expect, Bennett said, they got what they deserved. They were very sloppy, and they left one on the table there. So I do expect the Rabbitohs will improve for this one. But yeah, it's what we're saying is that the gulf between these sides is not that number of points. And the Warriors, even whether or not Luke plays, I think they're going to be competitive in this one. And you spoke about Blake Green. He was good last week, but I really also agree. I love this Harris Tavita because the difference between him and Kieran is he's a running threat, which really complements Green's game. He's a young kid who actually will take the line on and will step somebody and actually causes problems and creates kind of decisions to be made by the defense. So we're riding on the Warriors, and we're going to be in attendance at Sunshine Coast Stadium to cheer on, I think, probably the most best bets we've had on a game this season.
It is the most best bets we've had on a game this season. We've got 7 of them. First up, we're taking New Zealand plus 8.5 points. That one is $1.90 on Ladbrokes and Neds. We're taking New Zealand plus 4.5 points in the first half, $1.85 sports bet. Staying on sports bet, we're taking the New Zealand team total over 15.5 points. That one's $1.83. We're taking the Rabbits under 24.5 points. That is $1.91 on Lads and Neds. We'll take New Zealand plus 1.5 tries. That one's $1.80 on Bet365. Especially like that one because Adam Reynolds is a much better kicker. We'll take New Zealand over 2.5 tries. That one's $1.99 on Sportsbet. And we'll take the Warriors to win a half. That one's $1.83 on Sportsbet and Betties.
Just make a point as well. We're sharing 7 best bets, and that obviously is an indication that we do really love the value there. We don't want to put ourselves at risk, to hurt our record even more. And we've obviously dipped below 60% success rate this season. But look, you don't have to bet all 7 yourself as well. Like, people do complain sometimes, by the time I saw the markets, the odds had moved and stuff. So that's why we actually like to share multiple. Like, we believe all 7 that we've shared are great value. So if a couple do move, and we know that there's people absolutely smashing these live, and there's potentially bookies even reacting to some of the best bets just from what we've seen of some of the movement of markets, then there's still an opportunity for you to jump in, like taking the Warriors over 15.5 points or to score over 2.5 tries. They are very similar bets, and we believe, both are winners. So there's just more opportunities for value for people following. But, we believe in every single one of these plays that we're sharing wins more often than not.
Oh, absolutely, and they're all obviously correlated. And I will add one thing. Obviously, we say, bet 2 to 3 units on each one of our plays, but we also kind of say you don't ever want more than 5 units on one game. That's 5% of your bankroll, 5% of what you're willing to lose in your entire life betting. So even though we've given out 7 best bets, if you can get down on every single one of them, don't put the standard 2 to 3 units on each one of those plays. You probably want to either split that up to a maximum of 5 units, or just bet a couple of them for 2 units each or something like that. Next up, we've got the Knights hosting Manly. Knights are 4.5 point favourites at home, and 38.5 is the total. Knights, a little bit disappointing last week. Lost to the Dragons in a close one. That one was pretty much a coin flip game. Could have gone either way. And Manly, just a very, very impressive win. Like we kind of talked about before, they beat the Rabbits. They were short-handed. They came out after half-time. I know that Cherry Evans kind of at half-time was saying, we've got the wind in our back next half, and he's quite confident. And then to come out first play of the second half, and Tommy Turbo, fucks his hammy. That must have been demoralising for them, but they stood tough. The defence was absolutely outstanding. It was the best defensive effort I think I saw from a team, possibly even this entire season. They were under siege at their goal line, and if they can keep this up this week, I think it's a dead nut under game. You've got a desperate as fuck Knights team at 1-3. Generally, when a team really, really needs the win, they step it up defensively because there's so much to play for. It's a massive game for them. And Manly, just without Tommy Turbo, I can't see them scoring a shitload of points on this Knights team that's going to be bang up for it. And the defense, if it can play like it did last week, I see no way in hell how this gets close to 38.5. I love the under in this one. And we've also found a great play on the Knights getting under that key number of 4. But it just seems like too many points. I can't see how Manly gets to like 18. And a Knights team that struggles as well to score, especially against this Manly defense. Plus you've got 2, I would say below average kickers, conversion takers, and it all lands me on the under.
Yeah, I agree that was the defensive performance of the season. Quite a funny story to talk about that game. I watched the first half.
Here we go.
Had the in-laws, or at least the missus' mum, staying with us, and had to drop her at the airport. So I actually had to drive during the second half of this game. So we're kind of scrambling, getting stuff together. I hop in the car, and I had to listen to it in my headphones, listen to the radio feed of the second half, because I knew it was a tight one. Obviously, Manly was down a try at halftime. We had +6 in the game, and a couple other best bets like Bunnies under 22.5. And so it was in the balance. And the first thing I hear when I hop in the car is that, oh no, Turbo, he's done his hammy, he's out. I've gone, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Because we know how important he is to that team. And then next thing, it's, Tapau's gone off, he's ginger. Coruscant's holding his wing, and the other players off. They've got no one on the bench here. Oh no, they've dropped it again. Oh, they've held him out. They've got the ball. Oh, they've dropped it. First tackle. This is unbelievable. I mean, the completion rate was 40%.
Oh,
and every,
terrible.
every 90 seconds as I was driving, I've just gone, for fuck's sake. And, the missus has no idea what's gone through my ears. It was painful. It was painful to listen to because they put themselves under so much pressure, all that considered, to get out of there with a win. There is real confidence about that team. But different story this week. Without Turbo, Elliott moves to fullback, Sully back in the side. Look, Manly is solid, and in terms of these two sides, the Knights and Manly, I think they're quite comparable with the forward packs pretty even. I mean, no one's as good as Jake Trbojevic, but you could say a guy like David Clemmers, the leader of that pack, and then each side has a dominant 7 in Pearce versus Cherry. But the difference is the fullback. So we've seen the effect that Ponga to fullback instantly created. He had both the, try assists for the Knights last week and just so much more of a threat. And Manly doesn't have that threatening outside back. On top of that, it's at McDonald Jones Stadium again. We know that they do always get a really passionate crowd. And even though it didn't get them over the line against the Dragons, it's always an advantage to the Knights when they play at home. Those two factors, for me, pushes the Knights over the edge in this one.
Yeah, we've found 3 really good players that we think probably won't be there at game time. First up, we'll take the Knights minus 3.5 points. That one is $1.81. You have to look a little further, though. It's under Sportsbet other markets. So if you go to the regular line, it won't be there. You scroll to the bottom, find the other markets. You'll find that price there. Then we'll take under 38.5 points for the game. That one's $1.92 on Unibet. And we'll take under 18.5 points in the first half. That one's $1.88 on BetEasy. Moving on to the Sharks, plus 6.5 points hosting the Roosters. 40.5 is the total. Don't really have a huge lean on this one. Gun to my head, I probably would take the 6.5 with the Sharks. I just think it's probably, this line should probably be 6.25 maybe. But I understand how good the Roosters are. They are an absolute juggernaut. Thing is, they're not going to be complacent at all. I understand that they're 3-1, but they've seen the Storm just constantly roll, and they understand how important home field is once the finals roll around. So they're going to want to win this one. Problem with Sharks is obviously they're a little bit hobbled. Obviously losing Aaron Woods last week, he's going to be out for probably about 4 weeks with that ankle or the foot or whatever it is. And just watching last week's game, obviously you get Sean Johnson back this week. How fully healthy he is, we're not quite sure, but he has been named and he should play. But you just watch a dude like Dugan, and he's just constantly on the ground. I understand that he's always he's always falling down and all this kind of shit, but he dead set looks like one tackle could absolutely break him. The guy is made of glass, so that's the worry with the Sharks, that you aren't fully healthy. And if the Roosters are on, they can pile it on, as we saw last Thursday with that Broncos game. So no play at this stage. If the line trickles up, or if we hear any more news and we see the line starting to go towards 6, maybe we'll have to pull the trigger on the Sharks. But look, at this stage, it's the only side I could take with the Sharks at home and catching over a converted try. Yeah,
you've just spoken about the injury issues that have come up in the last week. But of course, it goes back to the fact they lost Valentine Holmes in the off-season. He was probably the best player on the team.
True.
And Wade Graham, ACL in the first week of the finals as well. He's not going to be back for a long time. So there's those two. And then Matt Moylan as well, who was meant to be the fullback in this team. He's got the hammy tear too. Johnson was a late scratching. They had to put Flanagan in the halves, and that didn't work too well with Townsend. Gallen was scratched. Dugan had the HIA, had a million different injuries in that game, was completely hobbled, and you touched on that. And then Aaron Woods, I thought it was worse than 4 weeks. I heard broken foot, not sure, but it was definitely couldn't play any further part in the game last week. Basically, they had no real chance, and they were actually impressive to hang in the game for as long as they did, because it was within a try until probably 15 to go. That was impressive because they had a high completion rate and they defended well. It was a guts effort, but the 17 that they were actually able to field, or less than that with the injuries, gave them very little chance. And that's the concern this week, that although Johnson's back on deck and supposedly his quad should be, sweet, and Gal's back in the team, like we speak about how important fullback is, and Dugan's got what they're saying back issues, but he's bloody got issues in every limb and he's got lots of issues. So that's your concern if you take the Sharks, is how healthy are they? Now, I will say, it doesn't hurt when you can bring a guy like Bronson Xerri straight into this team.
True.
This guy that's been waiting in the wings, 18-year-old, is a star in the making. It was awesome watching him debut. It was a shining light in a loss there. If you didn't see him play I would describe him, he reminded me a lot of like a Nick Kotrick. Big human, but
Bloody
runs
fast.
like the wind.
Bloody
And,
quick.
Breaking the line every time or bending the line every time he carried the ball, finding his front, like powerful for an 18-year-old kid. That's exciting. These are the kind of players that we love to watch, and it really does help to have him in there. But you can't expect, a kid playing his second game to be all the difference. Whereas the Roosters were clinical and won the forward battle against Brisbane, which I said they wouldn't. And they're adding Warrior Hargraves. So
Correct.
This side is just so loaded. You would expect the Roosters to be too good here, but it's a steep price. You speak about most bookies have this game at -6.5. That's probably too much for the Sharkies, who are playing at home at PointsBet Stadium. If it gets any higher, it may actually force our hand, and we may actually have to take the Sharkies in this one. We're not going to lay probably over a converted try away from home with the Chooks.
Yeah, no, definitely not taking the Roosters in this one, but we will monitor the line, see where it's going, and decide if we want to have any best bets possibly tomorrow or later in the week. Next up, the Dragons laying 6 points, hosting the Doggies. 38.5 is the total. Dragons should get home here. And I just want to say one thing, I guess. The Dragons aren't a fucking great team, but you're at home here. You're 2-2. You had aspirations to make the 8. You have to win games like this against a bottom-feeding fucking Dogs team if you have any chance of making the 8. On the Dogs side, so I understand that they put in a really good performance last week. We probably know that they have the worst roster in the comp, let's be fair. So you put in a good performance last week, came up just short, had chances to win that one. You're up 2 converted tries and you let that one slip. This week is probably going to be a bit of a letdown spot for you. They've put in 2 very good performances in a row away from home, first beating the Tigers, then going to Melbourne, having a great game against the Storm. And it's just really, really tough when you're a shit team, a bottom 4 team, to put in not only 2, but 3 really, really good performances as, underdogs of a converted try or more, which they have been in the last 3 weeks. So I don't think the Dogs can put in a performance like they did last week. If they do, they can probably hang with the Dragons, but I just can't see it happening. I think the Dragons will probably be too strong here.
You do just hate the Dogs. I can just hear it in your voice. Just talking, you really don't always take happiness talking about how shit they are and how bad their team. Now look, you're probably right. They probably have, I would say it a bit nicer, that they have the least talent of any roster, and there's salary cap issues and there's long-seated issues and there's reasons behind that. But I wanted to talk about, unearthing a guy like Ockenberg on the wing, nearly 300 metres against the Storm. Man, that's awesome to see. And they pretty much unearthed like a guy, Lockie Lewis, last year, and some other blokes in Remus Smith and Reece Martin, and they're building to something. But it's going to be a little while before this, side is anywhere sniffing the finals again. And to lose Napa, who was their big off-season signing, although he hasn't played well this season. Yeah, but it's still a big out because he's still a guy that you do need a big contribution for on a side that doesn't have a lot of good props. Whereas for the Dragons, they got a massive return from Frizzell. I honestly think him coming back into the side was basically the difference. I mean, on the scoreboard, because he literally ripped it out of Pierce's hands and ripped our heart out of our chest basically after a bad round.
Yep.
So, of course, he was the difference on the scoreboard and just on the park there. He's a star and a beast back row, and especially a team that is missing Jack de Belin still. He brings that forward pack up as one of the more formidable in the comp. And they are the better forward pack in this, even though the Dogs team is built around their pack too. You've got the better halves too in Hunt and Norman playing with confidence. Think about this side. This side easily could be 0 from 4, really. Yep. If you think about how close their last 2 finishes were. But in saying that, they were thoroughly deserved to go into hostile environments in Brisbane and in Newcastle and pull those wins out when they face a lot of adversity. This side has got to be confident, but I don't think the Dragons will be overconfident, because I want to cast people's minds back to just round 24 last season when the Dragons were going towards the finals and the Dogs were completely out of contention. They played at Cogra. The Dogs won 38-0. And that was a Sunday Arvo footy game, pretty sure on Channel 9 as well. And it was pretty much the low point for the Dragons, that they were just completely lost and completely embarrassed at their home ground. And here they are at home again, playing this Dog side, mostly pretty much the same personnel that absolutely spanked them, just a few NRL games ago. I think that they get their full attention and that they should be too good. They should win this by at least a converted try.
Yep, I agree. We've got a couple of best bets on this one for now. Maybe add more in the app come tomorrow morning. We're taking the Dragons minus 5.5 points. That one is $1.85 on Unibet. We're also taking the Dragons to score over 3.5 tries. That one is $1.87 on Sportsbet. Last game of the round, Sunday night, we've got the Raiders laying 4.5 points hosting the Eels. 40.5 is the total. Really tough game for me. I love both of these teams. I said in the preseason pod, I really was high on the Raiders this year, and I wanted to bet on the Eels in the early rounds of the season. What do you know? Both teams are 3-1, but it's a tough game for me because it's like I watched the Eels play, and all 4 of their games, they have been very, very solid. They seem to have come into this season. They're well drilled. They look fit. And they run hard for a full 80 minutes, which is what I love. The problem is the Raiders do the exact same thing. Their forwards look fit as well. They look hungry. And it's like when you're a team that had terrible seasons last year, which both of them did, and now you're 3-1, this is a great opportunity for both of them to go 4-1 and go a long way to making the 8. From, I guess, a point spread perspective, 4.5 seems like a lot of points, but you look, I think the Raiders are a slightly better team than the Eels. They're probably, in my mind, 1.5 maybe better than the Eels from a point spread perspective. Then you've got to factor in home field, and I think that Canberra home field is probably worth at least 2.5 points, if not 3. So, if you look at it that way, you're landing on a line of about 4.5 points. Gun to my head, I am taking the Eels plus the 4.5. But they're both teams that I really do want to bet on this year, and I just can't see that much value in the line at its current 4.5.
Yeah, to me, the Raiders definitely are a top 8 side. The way they've played, they've recruited so well. I mean, everyone's talking about the Poms, Sutton, particularly Bateman, but Chance Nrl Round, at fullback, what a revelation! Because he's a threat with the ball and a weapon for them back then. It's not easy to find fullbacks. I mean, ask the North Queensland Cowboys, wouldn't they love to pick someone up? And and a perfect example of a guy who was just behind some other really good players is at the Warriors, who they're known for having such a good wing fullback and wing combination that he couldn't get many opportunities there. Comes to the Raiders, and he's bolstered them. But I've got to say the Eels buyers have obviously been just as effective in Fergo, who's been massive for him every single week, and Paulo as well. But I would say that maybe we're overestimating the Eels or overvaluing the Eels because they got pretty lucky in that they played a mash unit of a Sharks team last week. You've got to remember that they lost Nathan Brown in the opening round. They've lost Manu Ma'u, and they lost Dylan Brown as well, and those kind of chickens haven't come home to roost yet. But when the going gets tough, that will be when we will really notice that those guys are not there. Whereas the Raiders get back another international in Tapane, so they're pretty rock solid going into this game. I think they are the better team. They really have addressed the fitness issues they had last year and attitude, honestly, and Leipana's carving up again as well. Combo out there on the right, so I actually would be even laying the points. I mean, what can you? I don't know if you can lay 4 in this game, but basically
probably get 4 there somewhere.
Yeah, but we did pretty much agree that the point spread should be close to where it is right now, and we're probably both just leaning in opposite directions. But it's great to see a couple of form sides come together and pretty fun sides to watch. So it will be a good game. So I guess stay tuned to see whether we do hash out any value on this one. Otherwise, sometimes the best play is no play on a game.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it, and we, like you said, if the line was 3.5, you'd like the Raiders. I said the line should probably be 4, so, at 4.5, I like the Eels. So generally, when you can make an argument over each side of the line, or over which side to take, then it's generally a good idea to stay away. What I will mention is I see a couple of comments flowing through about Mitch Moses. He has been on fire this year. He has gone to another level, and he is. I know it's only been 4 weeks, but he is very rightly in the Dally M discussion. He has carried that team on his back on the back of 4 really, really good performances. He's been absolutely fantastic. That'll do it, guys. That will do it for the week. Hopefully we can fucking improve on last week. Last week was diabolical, but honestly, it is the worst round we've had in 4 and a bit years now. So yeah, we kind of say consistency is key, but you got to look long term as well. Don't blow your bankroll on 1 week, and make sure you've got enough to spend the next week, because come the end of the season, I can almost guarantee we will be in profit. We're still 55% on the year, which has made your profit so far. Make sure you're in the app. Obviously, you guys got the best bets that we gave out tonight. If you didn't get them, we will post them in the app tomorrow about lunchtime. And also, if we have any other plays that we find tomorrow morning, we'll post them up in the Tripod app around lunchtime tomorrow. Anything else you wanted to add, Jacob, before we get out of here?
Well, no, it shouldn't be too hard at all to improve on last week. But look, history would tell you that this could actually be one of our better weeks, because we really do take it personally when we have to hand money over to the bookies. So we quite often come back with a vengeance. So we'll be looking to do that, and we'll literally be, as I said, in attendance to cheer home the game with the most best bets. So let's get back on track in round 5. Yeah, can't wait for it. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Sorry we were a little late off the mark. We'll work harder as well to improve the technology.
Indeed, yeah. Hopefully Jacob won't be a tiny little box in the corner next week. So tune in, yes. After the Sunday games, we'll do a recap pod. Hopefully we'll have another winning week then. But we'll catch you in the app, catch you in the group, and we'll see you after the Sunday games on Sunday. See you then.